been Riverkeeper since 1997. That was when I got my license to use that trademark. Prior to that, I've been around the river a good part of my life. The Meadowlands were the Meadowlands when I was a kid, before all that development took place, and it was a great place to grow up. You know, it was like living in the country, but within sight of the metropolis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
And unfortunately, you know, mostly during the late 60s, the 70s, into the 80s, they destroyed, you know, hundreds and literally thousands of acres of wetlands. About 700 or 800 acres of landfills over there.
700 to 800 acres of landfill.
Just in that area back there alone. When the dumping was going on, when the garbage dumping was going on, the principal species in the air were the gulls.
Okay.
You know, thousands of gulls. They would just descend upon the landfills every day.
Look at that one there. What kind of bird is that, Doctor?
That's the great egret. That's the egret I was talking about.
That's the egret, okay. The Riverkeeper, and that's a trademark name, you said.
Yeah, well, Riverkeeper was founded in the 1980s after 20 years of advocacy by the Hudson River Fishermen's Association. President of their board, the Hudson River Fishermen's Association, a guy named Bob Boyle, wrote a book in the late 60s called The Hudson River.
Okay.
A Natural and a Non-Natural History. And in that book, he proposed the idea that every river should have a keeper, and he wrote down, like in very poetic terms, what the keeper should be doing to help the river. He led the fishermen into a process to change their name to Hudson Riverkeeper and hired John Cronin, the first modern riverkeeper, and a short while later, John Cronin hired Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Really?
as his prosecuting attorney. They, two of them, back in the 80s, started kicking ass, taking names, and suing people in federal court and in state court and getting them to stop polluting the river. And it was during the volunteering for Baykeeper I realized that this river that I lived by my whole life basically needed a full-time advocate.
So, Captain Bill, we all know that a lot of factories have been, for years, for the past 100 years, in New Jersey, New York, around the nation, have been creating products, making profit, creating jobs. But unfortunately, what is the downside, and where are we, and why is this relevant to this point?
You know, there was a mindset back in the late 19th, early 20th century that nobody wanted to stand in the way of progress.
Right.
And anybody who had an idea to put some jobs together was considered to be a progressive in those days.
Really?
Yeah.
A progressive?
Yeah.
That's like the opposite of today's progressives.
The opposite of today's progressives. One of the sites that we decided to sue on was this site here. We sent a 90-day letter of intent under the Federal Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, and we got them into this standstill agreement. They agreed that they'd move forward with the cleanup as long as we held our complaint out of federal court, but we kept our notice period open. So that meant that if they stopped working on the project, we could go right to court without doing another notice period, without,
right to federal court.
Yeah, right to federal court.
Sounds like somewhat of a settlement, a plea bargain, where you found common ground and you were able to help clean up the river?
Well, we were able to get this site cleaned up.
This site, okay.
And that was, and sometimes that's how you have to do it, one site at a time. I'll show you some more on the way down. That is a out of business, defunct, shut down coal-fired power plant. Public Service voluntarily shut that down last year. Nobody had to sue them to make them do it. They did it because they see that the future of energy is renewable. What I'm showing you is the dirty underside of what happened here during the 19th and 20th centuries as a result of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution helped build the country. The Industrial Revolution brought, a lot of economic activity to, especially this part of the country.
Yeah, a lot of growth.
But there was a price.
Right.
And we're paying that price to this day. Anybody that's watching this, anybody that's listening to this, you have the power to go to court and force polluters to stop their pollution, force companies to do the right thing.
So, thanks for tuning in to One Tree Planted's Reforestation Nation, ladies and gentlemen. We are We are mesmerized by the genius of the past, and let's embrace the future, but not demonize past technologies. Industry, coal, electricity, Edison, Einstein. Let's embrace the future. Let's do the Tesla in a literal way, the car and the man. And here's the PATH train right here from Jersey to New York. So let's create that path. Let's create that connection between the renewable energies of the future and the people that have been living in the fossil fuel gifts of the current. As always, subscribe to stay alive, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching Reforestation Nation, where we interview impact leaders about how we can scientifically thrive with nature. And as always, subscribe to stay alive by clicking here and watch more content with us right here.
Please click and subscribe.
This is Martin from 7th Generation. If there's any green guru, it's him. If he's doing it, I would do it too.
Click and subscribe.
To stay alive.
You think they're really going to do that?
I hope so.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right, Martin. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure, Alex.